Control flow. Control flow is essential in programming as it allows you to execute different code based on certain conditions and iterate over a sequence of elements. In this particular video, we will cover conditional statements and loops. So I've created already a playground here where I've given the two comments, conditional statements and loops. Now conditional statements, as I mentioned, allow you to allow your program to make decisions and execute different code based on certain conditions. We're going to look at if, and else statements. The if statement is used to execute code only if a certain condition is true. You can add an else if clause to check additional conditions and an else clause to execute code if none of the conditions are true. Let's look at some examples so we can make sense of what I just said. Let temperature equal to, let's say, how much is it today? 30 degrees. If temperature is greater than 30, I'm going to say print it's hot outside. I'm saying in Celsius. Else if I can say temperature is less than 10, then I'll say print it's cold outside. And finally, else if none of these, so if it will check if the temperature is greater than 30, it will say print it's hot outside. If the temperature is less than 10, it's a cold outside. And else it will say, let's spell, yep, if temperature, or I will say else if none of them is right, I'm gonna say the weather is nice. So what do you think happens in this case? So what will happen is temperature is 30. Is it greater than 30? No. Is it less than 10? No. So I'll say the weather is nice outside. If I run this, you'll probably see the weather is nice. Why? Because it says 30, not 31. If I say 31, run it, it will say it's hot outside because 31 is greater than 30. That's why it didn't go in the first if condition, because it's 30 and not greater than 30. So this is how conditional statements of if, else if, and else works. Next, we're going to look at the switch statements. Now, the switch statement allows you to execute code based on the value of a variable or expression. Each case in a switch statement is compared to the value and the code for the matching case is executed. Let's look at an example. I'm going to keep on typing up so it's up there. Day of week is what I'm going to look for. Let's say I'm going to go for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, which are 7 days, and I'm going to say day of the week is, let's say, 3, which is Wednesday. Now I'll say switch day of week. Now based on this variable or expression that we provide here, I can say if case is 1, if the value of this day of week is 1, it should say print Monday. What I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste this 7 times, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And also what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a default which happens if, so let's say by mistake you give a number 8. So I'm going to say print, in that case, invalid day. Now it's going to give me a bunch of warning because not change the value. Now this doesn't make sense because every single day is not Monday. So I'm going to change it to Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So now they should be fine. All the alerts will go away. Now in this case, what will it print? Let's say it will also print the temperatures, but for this one it says Wednesday. Now if I change this value to, let's say, 7, it will say Sunday. If I say 10, which doesn't exist, so it should give me invalid day. Excuse me. So this is how the switch switch conditional work. Now that's all about conditional statements. Next we'll go look at loops here. Now loops allow you to execute a block of code multiple times. We look at for loops first. The for loop is used to iterate over a sequence such as a range of numbers, an array, or a dictionary. Now let's look at what I mean. By using for, I is a variable. So I'm saying for I in 1 dot 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 5. So I'm saying from numbers 1 to 5, what I want to do is I want to print each item in there. So in this case, I can say iteration. The way you can add your value inside double quotes is by using slash and putting it inside brackets. I am going to get rid of all this so it doesn't have multiple print statements. Now in this case, what will happen is this loop will run and it will print from 1 to 5, 1 2 3 4 5. So as and when it goes through this loop, the value of I will be 1 first and will print 1, then it's going to go again inside it 2 3 4. So I'm saying go in each one of these items 1 to 5 and then print values out. Let's look at how we can do it with a set of items using an array. So I'm going to create an array of fruits here, and inside that I'll add, let's say, apple, banana, and I want one with C, cherry. There's no reason I put it alphabetical order, you can use anything. And now I'm saying for fruit in the loop fruits. So I'm saying for each one of them, assign the value like first one to fruit and go through this loop. I'm going to say print fruit. So what it does is it goes through the fruits array one at a time. It picks the first one, it will print it. We run it and show you. It will print apple, banana, and cherry. Even if you move stuff around, run it, it will print in that particular order: banana, cherry, and apple. So that's how for loops work. Now next, let's look at while loops. A while loop continues to execute a block of code as long as the condition true. So what happens in while loop is you give a condition and says run this loop as long as the condition is true. So this is a very dangerous loop because the condition might be true forever and it will never stop. So I'm going to create a counter of 5 and I'll say while counter is greater than 0, I want to print. I'm going to make sure that these are commented out so we don't see that in our output. And I'm going to say counter is, as I mentioned, I can print the value inside double quotes using that. And let me close this, and then I'll change the counter. This is a very important step. I am saying reduce the counter by 1. So the current value of counter is 5. It's going to check while counter is greater than 0. Yes, it is. So it's going to go run 1 5 4, then reduce it to 4, then again run it, reduce it to 3 2 1, and when it's 0, it's not greater than 0, so it will get out of the loop. Now in this case, if I say is less than 0, counter is less than 0, nope, and it's going to keep on reducing and it can go in infinite loop. So to be careful of what you do, and run here 5 4 3 2 1. So if you see, it went through each and every one once at a time. There's also repeat while. Now the repeat while loop is similar to while loop, but it guarantees that the code block is executed at least once, because in this case what happens is if I say the value is 0, it will not run through it because the value, it checks for the value first. Whereas in repeat while, let's say I create a counter 2 and give the value of 5, and the repeat while loop runs this way. So first you say repeat, and I can say value of the printer or the counter, print it out, and I am going to say okay, let's make sure, and then I'll say counter 2 minus equal to 1. I'm reducing the counter while the counter 2 is greater than 0. So in this case, let me just, so if you see counter to 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, I'm going to comment the previous one. So we just see the second counter, counter 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now in this case, if the counter value is 0, it will run at least once because it will say repeat. So it's going to go through this, print the value of the counter, and then reduce it to -1. Now the value of counter 2 is -1. Is the counter 2 is greater than 0? No, it's not. So it will quit the loop. So this is how the conditional statements and loops work. So what I'm going to do is let's make a project. Let's run make a have an exercise on what we have learned. So I'm not going to create a new project. I'm going to delete everything and start here. Let's say let's score equal to 85. So just work alongside with me. If you have any issues or problems, you can probably see how I'm doing, and at the same time, if you're running your project and if you have any problems, just let me know in comments and I can get back to you. Let's say if score is greater than equal to 90, this is based on school scores. Let's say print, you get a grade of A. Similarly, I'll just copy this and I say else if score is greater than let's say around 80, then your grade is B. Then copy this a bunch of time. I'll say 70, like greater than equal to 90. I'll say score is greater than equal to 80, greater than equal to 70, you get C grade. If greater than equal to 60, you get a D grade. Greater than equal to I guess, is there a E grade? I don't know. What I'll do is I'll just say else if none of these, if your scoring is less than 60, if it's 59 and less, I'm going to say print, you get a grade of F, you fail. So this is how you can write a conditional if else if loop constantly. We can also look at create a array of numbers next, and inside that add the numbers 1 to 5, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Next, go through each and every number here and print that. So for that, using for loop, I can say for number in numbers, I want to print the number is number. So go run through this and see if it works. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the while loop. So let's create a variable countdown and assign it a value of 5. I'll say while countdown is greater than 0, what you have to do is print. What do I want to print? Count down is slash countdown. Pass it the value. I also have to remember to reduce the value of countdown by 1, or else it will cause a problem because the value will always be greater and it will never stop. Let's create another countdown to do the repeat while countdown equal to, let's give it a value of 3, and I'll say repeat print another countdown value is, you know what the value is, another countdown, and we reduce the value by 1 and say while another countdown is greater than 0. So this will run at least once. So run through this and what we'll see is, like here in our debug, the value, the score is 85, which goes is greater than equal to 80 but not greater than equal to 90. So that's why I got a grade B. Then I go through each and every number one in this array using the for loop. Then we went to created a countdown variable and we reduced the variable value by 1 and printed that. So we had countdown 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we created another countdown using repeat while where we went down 3 to 1. So what you learned in this is how to use if, and else statements to execute code based on conditions. You also explored switch statements for more complex condition checking. We also did uh, the entire thing that we learned in a particular exercise here. Hope you were able to get it. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. Next, what we'll do is now that we have the understand now we understand control flow, you can write more complex and dynamic programs. The next video will focus on functions, which are reusable blocks of code that can make your programs more modular and easier to manage. So stay tuned.